All right. Well, hi everyone, and thanks for coming. As Philip said, my name's Henry, and I'm here with Natalie. We're from the Reserve Bank, and we're going to talk to you about some of the opportunities here at the RBA. For those of you who don't know, the RBA is Australia's central bank. We're responsible for monetary policy, which means we set interest rates, but we also have a number of other responsibilities. So we issue the nation's banknotes. We regulate the payment system. We act as a banker to the government and a lender of last resort to commercial banks. So I'm currently a graduate at the RBA, so I'll talk about what a normal day looks like for me. And then Natalie will discuss some of the specifics around the opportunities available. And if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put them in the chat and we'll do our best to get to them at the end. So if you could just go to the next slide, please, Natalie. Cool. So as I said, I'm Henry. I'm an analyst. I'm in the second year of a 2-year grad program at the RBA. I'm from Adelaide originally, where I studied an undergrad in finance, and I was always interested in financial markets, but I did quite a few economic subjects at uni, which got me interested in banking and monetary policy. And combining all of these interests meant that the bank was the obvious place for me to apply. So at the end of 2019, I was lucky enough to do a summer internship with the bank. I initially interned in a section called International Reserves. The International Reserves team is part of the Financial Markets Group, and it sits within the bank's dealing room. So the RBA has a dealing room where we participate in financial markets to implement monetary policy. And the International Reserves team is responsible for managing the nation's foreign exchange reserves. During the internship, I got to see what the team did on a day-to-day basis, and I got the opportunity to complete a major research piece and then presented it to senior members at the bank. So after finishing the internship, I did an honours year at Monash, and then following that, I was lucky enough to come back to the bank as a graduate, which was at the beginning of last year. And since coming back, I've been working in a section called the Securities Market Section, or SMS for short. And I'm on the equities desk, which means I spend most of my day looking at the Australian stock market. So as part of the grad program, you'll complete 2 rotations. The first one lasts for around 15 months. And then you complete the grad program while you're on your second rotation. So in May, I'll be rotating to the note issue department, which is responsible for printing and issuing the nation's banknotes. So next slide, please, Natalie. So I just wanted to have a chat to you all about what a regular day looks like for me. So we have 3 kind of tasks, I guess. So I'll start with the regular operational tasks. So our section doesn't actually participate in securities markets. Our function is purely research focused. So we analyse financial securities markets to try and help to understand the effects of monetary policy. In our section, there are 3 main desks that you can see there. So as I mentioned, my desk is the equities desk. We follow trends in the Australian stock market pretty closely. So we're interested in things like pricing, valuations, sector rotations, IPOs, capital raisings, and profit reporting. There's also a fixed income desk who focus on corporate bonds. They monitor trends in bond issuance, yields, and spreads for Australian firms. The third desk is called the securitizations desk, which is securitizations are also known as asset-backed securities. So for those of you who have seen The Big Short, they're the weird and wonderful things that helped cause the GFC. So within our desks, we're responsible for following our markets, and we report on any major developments to senior management. And we also contribute to the monthly board paper before the board makes a monetary policy decision. So next slide, please, Natalie. So the second type of work we do is called analytical work, which is more akin to longer term research, where we spend a lot of time thinking in depth about a topic related to our market. So just to get an idea on the type of things that we think about, I've listed there some of the pieces that we're working on at the moment. So the first one is something I'm doing. I'm looking into the differences between private and public markets and thinking about the increasing role of private equity. And then the second one, we've been looking quite closely at trends in M&A. So M&A activity over the last 18 months has been pretty extraordinary. So we're spending quite a bit of time thinking about that. We've been doing some work looking into green bonds and climate financing. We're looking at the rise of passive investment vehicles like ETFs, and actually later this week on Thursday, I think, we're releasing a paper on securities markets during the pandemic. Next slide, please, Natalie. So the final type of work that we do is what's called infrastructure work. So at the bank, we use coding quite a bit to help streamline our processes and to try and automate tasks. So we spend a lot of time improving our code base and writing new code to try and make our lives a bit easier. As an institution, we've been trying to move away from Excel because it's a little clunky and it's not ideal for our needs. It's not great at dealing with some of the extra large data sets that we use. So in my team, we use the programming languages R and SQL, and these seem to be quite common throughout the bank. I should just say that we're not at all expected to be software engineers, and we do have dedicated data teams to help us out with our coding. So don't be afraid if you don't know how to code or have never done any coding. The bank will teach you everything you need to know, and we do invest a lot of time in getting people up to scratch. When I first started at the bank, I'd never done any coding, but it's something I've really enjoyed learning, and I think you can take these skills with you wherever you go. So hopefully this has given you some idea about the type of work that you could do. One of the things that I really enjoy about the bank is that we do get quite a bit of say in what we work on. So we obviously have our regular tasks that need to get done, but then we can choose whether we focus on infrastructure work or more so on analytical work. And well, at least in my team, we do get a fair bit of input into what type of analytical stuff we want to focus on, which is really good. Next slide, please, Natalie. So I just wanted to have a chat with you all about some of my favourite things that I've got to work on since starting at the bank. So last year I did some research looking at the hurdle rates that firms use when making investment decisions. So hurdle rates haven't declined in recent years, even though the cost of capital has come down fairly significantly. It's something that has been spoken about quite a lot in the media, and Phil, the governor, has commented on it quite a bit publicly as well. So anyway, I did this work with my manager at the time, and Lucy Ellis, who is the assistant governor in charge of the economics department, asked if she could use it in a speech that she was about to make, and that was really exciting. I think it's always rewarding to see something you've worked on up on a screen in front of a room full of hundreds of people. So anyway, we got the article published in the quarterly bulletin in December, which was also pretty exciting. I never thought that I'd be have my first published piece within 12 months of starting at the bank. I think one of the great things about working here is we do get a lot of exposure to senior staff members, and we are followed. What we do is obviously important, and it's followed quite closely. So we do get the opportunity to contribute to the public discourse. So anyway, hopefully I've been able to give you some insight into what it is we do on a day-to-day basis. I'll hand over to Natalie now, who will talk a bit more about the specifics of the program.
Yeah, and thank you, Henry. That was a really great insight into the day-to-day life as a grad and what kind of experiences you can get on our grad program. So just at a high level about the program itself and how to apply. So every year we actually advertise our graduate program from February to March, and our graduate applications actually closed last week. That being said, we will be opening up applications for our 2022-2023 internship this week. So that is another pathway to get into the graduate program, which I'll speak about very shortly. For both streams, very similar application process. So you can head over to our graduate careers page and apply there. You'll be asked to upload your academic transcript, CV, and complete our comprehensive application form so that we can find out more about you. If you are eligible, then you will be sent a numerical, deductive, and inductive reasoning online assessment, as well as a work preferences survey. And up front, you will be asked to also complete a video screening. So the final shortlist from that is sent to the departments for a final review before you're invited to an assessment centre, which includes a written exercise, a presentation exercise, and then a behavioural and technical type interview with the department representatives and someone from HR. So in terms of those rotations that Henry was mentioning before, you may end up in economic group, financial markets group, payments policy, financial stability, risk and compliance, or note issue. As Henry mentioned, it is a 2-year rotational program. You'll be provided with lots of training and coaching with the development of industry skills. And as Henry has mentioned, it is meaningful work that you're contributing to from day one. It's contributing to policy work that makes a difference to all Australians. In terms of eligibility criteria, so the list of degrees that we do look at, so candidates who hold or are completing a degree in economics, econometrics, finance, data science, legal, actuarial, computer science, engineering, or similar. We do have a requirement for our candidates to be completing or completed their honours in economics or finance or a significant research program. We do require the appropriate work rights for you to join us. So that would be Australian permanent residency or Australian citizenship. And that strong quantitative capability is also strongly desired. So as I mentioned, we will be opening up applications to our internship program this week. And I just want to call out that it is one of our key pathways to become a future graduate at the bank. Within that program, you'll be completing a research project. And again, it is things that, actually have a contribution to the real work of the bank. And at the end of that project, you'll do a final presentation to senior staff and peers across economics and policy. It is combined now with some BAU work, just to give you a bit of a flavour of what to expect as a graduate at the bank as well. And we provide a supportive buddy program too. So yeah, that is an 8-week placement. Again, we provide lots of training and coaching. There is that possibility of an early placement on the graduate program. And if you're studying honours and you are successful to become a graduate, there's a financial assistance support that can be provided. Okay, and next up. And then just in terms of that internship eligibility criteria, so very similar degrees that we're looking for there from our interns, with the intention to study honours in economics, finance, or another bank approved program. So we'll leave the contact information on the screen in case you would like to find out a little bit more further detail from looking at the website, or if we're not able to answer any of your questions today, you feel free to reach out to our graduates at rba.gov.au email address. But what we might do now is just go to some questions.
Sorry, Natalie. There was just one there about whether we had a graduate program in Perth. You might want to correct me, Natalie, but all the graduate programs are from the Sydney office. That's our main head office where most of our staff are. We do have an office in Perth, but it's a little bit smaller, and most of the staff there have been around for a while.
Yeah, that's right. There's small representative offices, so there's only about 3 to 5 people in any of our state offices. So yeah, head office is where all of our graduates are based. And then Henry, I think there's one for you. So where do you see yourself within your career in the next 5 years?
Sounds like an interview question. No, it's a good question. One of the things that I love about the bank is there really is no limit to what you can do. There's a lot of lateral movement, and as I mentioned, we do have quite a diverse range of functions. But one of the things that I'm really interested in is getting over to the London office. We have offices in London and New York, and also Beijing, where we participate in the foreign exchange and bond markets when everyone in Sydney is asleep. So that's a medium-term goal of mine. I'd also like to. The bank has a program called PGSA, or Postgraduate Study Assistance, where they will fund you and give you some pocket money to go and study a master's or PhD overseas. So I'd love to go over to the US or to Europe and study a master's at some point. So next one, do we accept international students? Natalie, maybe you can take that.
Yeah, again, we can accept international student applications, but it is a requirement to have the appropriate work rights. I do see that there is also a question around whether it applies to the internship. So again, the application form is going to ask you whether you have Australian citizenship, Australian permanent residency, or appropriate work rights. But what we kind of look for is that, if you would kind of need to have appropriate work rights at the time of starting your graduate program as well. So whether that's your PR or Australian citizenship. So yes, we can accept, if you've got work rights to work in Australia on the internship program, but at that time of joining as a graduate, then you'd require the PR or Australian citizenship.
So there was also a question about the IT graduate program. We do. I don't know if you want to answer that, Natalie, but I would say we do have a lot of IT graduates. I've often heard it said that every bank is almost just a big IT shop. It's obviously very important, but do you want to talk a bit more about the structure of the IT program?
Yeah, of course. So we have obviously focused on one of our main intakes today, which is on economics and policy, the economics and policy stream. It's our largest intake, but the IT graduate program, yes, we take on around 5, graduates per year there as well. So their graduate program differs slightly in that it is still a 2-year program, but they do 6 months rotations. And so you could be doing a rotation in business analysis or security or infrastructure, our innovation lab. There's actually quite a wide range of areas, any kind of team actually that exists within the IT department, you may have an opportunity to be rotated into. They have a really wonderful program, which is our Jumpstart Committee, which is really around providing support and training and, coming up with new ideas on, how we best support our early career people who enter into IT into the bank. Again, there's quite a bit of information on the website about Jumpstart and also the IT program. So I recommend going over to the website and having a look there.
I think that was all of them. I'm conscious that we've gone a bit over time. So
that's right. I think you may have started a little bit later, so all good. Well, thanks for jumping on, Henry and Natalie. That was epic. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Philip. Appreciate it.
All good.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys.
See you.